Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this is kind of a continuation on a past video I did where I talked about how Harvard is actively working to end homeschooling. And I all but called this when I saw the first story. You see, Harvard is beholden to every liberal in power. For crying out loud, for some reason, they got an SBA, Small Business Association loan, under the CARES program. That's in addition to the money they get every year from the government anyway. And this is while they're shut down. Their people are salaried, they're not returning student tuitions, and they're spending less because the campus is dark. Their profs are teaching from home if they're teaching at all. So they didn't lose any of the money that they were bringing in from students, from the government in the form of Pell Grants or student loans or whatever else comes in. They weren't losing anything, and they still managed to wrangle that loan, which they'll probably never have to pay back. And now they're actually saying that homeschooling is child abuse. I all but called this one a day or two ago reading another story. They have to escalate the argument from homeschooling is bad because it's not a standard education to homeschooling is evil because you're abusing your child. Every single one of them, just like they rant and rave when they go off on gun rights, they point to Europe, where people are disarmed and at the whim of criminals. They're also not allowed to homeschool their children. Even prodigies who are, high school graduates by 10, college graduates by 15, still have to go through the public education system or an approved private school. So, in essence, if you're a parent in most of Europe, you lose rights to your child the second they're born. Here in the USA, at least for now, parents have the right to homeschool their child if they choose. That child still has to take the state standardized tests. They still have to meet minimum requirements on class credits in order to receive an official diploma from whatever organization you're having them take their tests through. My nephew is homeschooled. He is a straight A student. Very, very intelligent young man. And scores very, very high on standardized tests. He is not unsocialized. He played competitive basketball for several years. He has a lot of groups that he does a lot of things with. He simply does not go to a government-run building with government-paid, so beholden to the government teachers, who are told what they may or may not discuss in the classroom for his science, history, math, economics, government. It's very simple. He has a group that my parents, are part of for his phys ed credit. They confirm that he is taking a physical education class and meeting all requirements. So why is it that my parents, who are able to prove that he is learning the core subjects the state demands he learn, he is mastering them quickly and maintaining a very high academic average, he is very well socialized, why is it the government thinks they can tell my parents, sorry, no, you're not qualified? My mother and I both hold degrees in the social sciences, specifically hers in social work with a minor in history, mine in history. My father has a master's in, I believe, communication with a minor in psychology. So all three of us are highly educated adults. We will be the first to admit that the maths and sciences are not our forte. So we have reached out to several groups and people and gotten help when instructing those. The rest of it, we're able to instruct. Well, I help a little, but there's never been a problem. But now, these uppity idiots at Harvard have decided they're going to label homeschool as child abuse. They actively say that they don't agree that parents have rights to their children. It won't be long before they're truly advocating for an Aldous Huxley world, save possibly the genetic engineering and no more human birth, where children are taken at birth, raised by the state, educated only by the state, so that they learn only what the state approves of. If you haven't read Brave New World, you need to. The world Aldous Huxley describes is offensive and frightening, as it should be. But we have idiots in power who read Bradbury, Huxley, and Orwell and thought, these are great ideas. We need to do all of them. They internalized that, yes, all people are equal, but some people are more equal. They honestly believe the AOCs, Pelosi's, Waters, Feinsteins, Schumers, Harris, Booker, all of them believe that they actually have a right to rule, live a life of luxury that would make some royals go, dude, too much, while taxing people into poverty. They actually believe they have a right to tell people, no, you don't get to go back to work. You just need to sit back and starve because we might give you a little money here and there, but maybe not. But you have to stay home. We're not going to let you work. Honestly, I'm surprised we've not had a death from starvation because someone could not afford to buy groceries because of the loss of their job. And you'll hear the Democrats, if it happens, blame Donald Trump for what they did. Everything is about power. That's all it's ever about. This latest bull from Harvard is about social power. They want to ensure that you cannot in any way instill any values, morals, faith in your child unless they approve of it. I'm never going to say that abuse does not happen. The story in question, which I will link below, does mention a case where a young girl who was homeschooled had an extremely abusive alcoholic father. I don't care if you're homeschooled or not. If you're being abused, you need to be taken out of the abusive environment. I was bullied as a teen. I saw bullying on campus at 2 of the 3 universities I attended. I've never been bullied by my parents. Never been abused by my parents. But I had teachers in high school, when I told them about the bullying, they told me to, well, just don't be alone where they can get to you. There's nothing they can do because at this point, they're bullying a child if they actually punish a bully for being a bully. I can remember an incident where I was walking out of the school for lunch. We had open campus. Another student, I believe he was 2 years ahead of me, sucker punched me right in the solar plexus. Now, I've had very limited martial arts training, so I know the proper breathing technique. If you get struck, how to open your lungs, raise your arms above your head. It elevates the chest, takes pressure off of your chest, so you can breathe a bit easier. I went to one knee, and that was it. Not a single teacher saw it. When I reported it, there's nothing we can do if we don't see it. Not too long after that, I was outside, going to lunch again, and he goes to sucker punch me. I pulled a Miyagi. I sidestepped. He punched a brick wall. His scream brought my vice principal out of the door. Now, my vice principal knew this student was a bully. He'd actually been watching. And, of course, the bully claimed that I threw him into a wall. Thankfully, my vice principal was not a stupid man. He said, so he locked your elbow and wrist and rammed your fist first into a wall to break your fist, as opposed to you hauling off after shifting your weight and punching at him and him moving, which I saw. His parents actually tried to get me expelled. My vice principal told me that nothing was going to come of it, but I did get a one-day suspension. It was a Friday. He said, I have to send you home. You were involved in a physical altercation with another student. So both students get sent home. I got back on Monday. I was caught up with my work anyway. I was told he had been moved to a disciplinary campus, would not be back, was not allowed on campus, and if he approached me off campus, they could not tell me not to defend myself. I didn't get in any trouble. I could tell that my vice principal hated that the victim of bullying had a one-day suspension on his record. I can understand the whole neutral corners, let everybody cool off. But if you have a student who does not get physical, they simply move to avoid being struck, they don't need to be sent home. But it's this crap that liberal unions, who are no longer teachers, have put into place. I can remember as a child that if two students were fighting, and I saw a couple of the older kids when I was in elementary school fight on the playground, the coaches would come out and get them and run them until they collapsed, and then run them some more until they threw up. That worked better than just you both get sent home for the day. The bullies, when I was in elementary school, knew not to do it because they would have their legs run off and then be run further until they threw up everything they'd eaten all day. We didn't get recess before lunch, so then they would be hungry the rest of the day with the aftertaste of vomit. But that was deemed wrong. I don't want to live in a world where the government tells me that my family must bow to them. I'm very grateful that my nephew graduates high school this next spring, a year from now, because I don't think they will be able to get anything in place before then to force him to public school. They might put something in place saying that he has to take the GED, or another test. He'll pass it with flying colors, and he'll prove them wrong that homeschool is bad. But I have friends who have children still in school. I have a niece who's still in school. And I don't want to live in a world or a country where the government says, we don't care that your school is failing, you may not remove your child. We don't care that they're beaten to a pulp 3-4 times a year, you may not remove your child. And I will oppose that with my last breath. But coming from Harvard, it's not a surprise. These are idiots who've lived in their ivory tower for decades, sure in the knowledge that they're so much better than the rest of the world because they went to Harvard or they work at Harvard. It's disgraceful. But I've talked long enough. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, be civil. If any of the idiots I've talked about show up and start mouthing off, I'll give as good as I get. I won't be vulgar. The rest of us are adults. We are able to use logic and be civil. And I expect you to do so. As always, please remember to like and share the video to widen the conversation and to widen the channel. I'm still doing the giveaway at 500, 1,000, 1,500 subscribers. You'll want to be subscribed to be part of that and have notifications on to know about everything as it posts. Until next time, have a wonderful day.